Yeah, we're ready. We're back. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the 42 days of magical practice. We are on day number 8, and we hope it went really well for you. First stages of relaxation.
First stages
of relaxation.
Right.
Yeah. And today we're going to take the spiral a little bit deeper, and we're going to talk about not just acknowledging those sensations that we're having during the relaxation, but actually naming those sensations.
Right, and giving the body the command to relax. So again, creating one more bridge. Right. So again, always trying to create these interlocking bridges and how to progress through it, in as much of a logical sequence as we can. Of course, they're all sort of interrelated, so it's sort of like, where one starts, another one ends, and it sort of gets all confusing, and we don't want it to get to that place where we're over analyzing. Again, if it starts to get too confusing, you got to just let it go and go back to the simple techniques. Always go back to simplicity when you get stuck.
Perhaps it's even a good time to talk about momentum.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of the times when we look at magical practices or things that we think are inspiring or that we may consider advanced, whether it be, an invocation or some type of, whatever it is, aura seeing or lucid dreaming or something like that, they may be very inspiring, but a lot of times when we go to try to do them, we meet with a lot of resistance, and it can be really self-defeating to jump into that, and we've all had that, jumping into that and then saying, oh, I'm failing over and over and over again. I'm not getting there. I can't do it. I suck.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, doing it this way, starting out with these simple things, building up the momentum of success in small doses really builds up. I mean, and it can't be discounted. It's such an easy thing to discount, and it's another one of those things that gets in there and says, this isn't that big of a deal. You're just sitting and relaxing for 5 minutes, and you're just naming your sensations. It's like, it's your, again.
Yeah.
It's not that, you're not doing it. You're not moving closer to your goal. You're not, doing anything advanced.
Right. All those self-doubt.
All that crap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so insidious.
Right. Because that's, we're used to, in this, our normal daily environment, our normal daily routines, expected to achieve what we consider, huge things. If I need to move, as simple as moving a pile of rocks from one place to another, right? I expect to see the pile go from here to there in a certain number of hours.
And we often push ourselves to get the whole thing done faster,
and we get hurt, we get injured. It's the same kind of thing,
Absolutely.
right? And then we have to, lifting too much weight in the gym, right? And then all of a sudden we get injured, and then we have to put off all the workouts for an extended period of time. So we really haven't done ourselves any favors doing that, right? So it's the same thing with all of those things. So, the sort of the mind, the body sort of projecting that idea of, like, oh, I've got to be able to do more, or I've got to be able to do this, and I've got to be able to do that, and the mind saying like, oh, it's like, well, you're not really making much progress. It's like, oh, then I better work extra hard to do that. I got to put more force behind it,
right?
And sort of saying, is there maybe a more eloquent way to do this? Is there a more efficient way to do this? Can I utilize my energies in a way that'll help achieve the goal in a much more in a fuller method? Is there a way that I can do this and maybe not even expend as much energy, right? So I have reserve energy for later to do something else as well.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just work myself to the bone and then fall into bed every night and get up and do the same thing.
I feel like it's one of those things that's actually reflected in so many different aspects of our culture. I mean, even when you look at medicine, It's not like you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, maybe just change your diet a little bit, or maybe just try this this supplement, or just this little thing. They're like, oh, let's get in there with some antibiotics and or the strongest prescription drug we can find and just destroy that mother.
Right.
It's like
totally change the environment in one day.
Yeah. So there's more than one
Yes.
way to go about it, and more force, and is not always the best. Is not always going to give you the best long-term solution.
No. And again, building up slowly,
Small things done well.
that momentum over time, creates, this, much more focused power rather than this broad force that's just sort of pushing everything, regardless if it's good or bad, right? It's like, yes, it's great and it's big and it's powerful, in that way, but it's just sort of annihilating everything in its path. It's moving the stones, but it's also pushing your house out of the way. So it's, that's not the right idea. We want it to be focused, and when we focus a force, it becomes power, right? We're directing it. And so it's the same thing with these practices, these exercises, right? It's like we're doing it step by step for a reason, because we're building this momentum slowly, and we're constructing, channels or avenues that, not only can focus this force right now, maybe a little more diffuse, a little wider, but as time goes on, it will become more narrowed and easier to do, right? It's like target practice, right? At first you just want to hit the giant square, but then you want to get it on the board, right? And then, you're throwing darts and it's like you want to get the bullseye, right? But first it's just like, if you're a kid, you're just trying to hit anything, right? So it's just get it on the board, and the same deal with this. You just want to get in the game first, feel it out, figure out the rules, see where your pluses and minuses are, not to smack yourself down, but just to see where you need the work and where can I put effort that's going to make it more efficient. That's all it is. And that momentum builds and builds and builds over time.
And
It's
I think
not
it
gonna
should be
happen overnight.
stated as well that I know that you've told me on several occasions that these simple practices are not things that you just teach a kid or you just teach a novice, but they're things that you come back to over and over and again.
If your basics aren't good, there's nothing that you can do with what would be considered advanced work. Advanced work is nothing more than small basic procedures put together in a different combination. That's all it is. So if any of those basics are lacking,
right,
the whole thing will fall apart.
And
it's
so
like building a castle in a swamp. It's going to sink.
And so when you're working on larger pieces of work, or let's say more advanced techniques, if you find that something's slipping, you come back to these things and say, oh, is this in place, and is this in place?
Yeah.
And
I don't even wait for that. I mean, I constantly work on them. I do more work on basics than I do. And every practitioner that I know that's worth his salt works more on basics than on advanced work. The proportions are probably 2 to 1. Seriously, because it's so foundational. If any of that slips, then you're not containing that energy. You're not able to contain that moving through you. And so in a way, what's the point? It's going to slip when you need it the most. And we see it with everything. The more complex the mechanism, right? There's more pieces that can break down. The more simple the mechanism, usually the longer lasting it is and the more effective it is. It's like,
right.
We can use a pneumatic hammer and it can increase our, progression of building a house, right? But if there's no electricity to run it, or your tank has a hole in it, or the hose has a hole in it, or the mechanism gets jammed inside, they go back to a piece of metal shaped, and we call it a hammer.
Right.
And you can bang in a nail, and you get back to work, right? So it's like, that's hard to break. The more moving parts, the more complex, more places can break down with that. So always going back to the basics and building them constantly throughout your life, throughout your career, throughout your practice, is, I would say is a critical component. There's plenty of people that jump into that advanced work, whatever that is, whatever that means.
Whatever form it takes.
Yeah. And they do it for decades and they produce nothing but crap in their lives, And so, but they jump over the foundational, the fundamental practices to jump into that stuff because it seems more exciting. It seems like the real stuff, But it produces nothing but chaos in their life because these forces are not contained. And they're only contained by how well your basics, your foundational practices are really cemented into place. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I don't know any other easier way to say that.
Yeah.
Basically. And that is my experience. I mean, there always will be an exception to anything, but they are the exception, they're not the rule. There will always be a Mozart. There will always be Count Basie. There will always be an Eddie Van Halen, right? But they're the exception, not the rule. That's.
And it's not that we can't hit that level.
It's not that we can't hit that level. It's just that we need to know that, and I guarantee you, if you ask them, except for some, who knows what, how it happened for Mozart. I mean, sometimes it is just this configuration of, prodigy, right? You just, from 3 years old, you're composing symphonies or whatever it is. Who knows what's going on there? Right. But for everyone else, I'm sure it was like, I remember seeing an interview, this is such on a side, but it's like, I remember seeing an interview with, I think it was David Lee Roth or some, way back when, and they were talking about, so how's the tour going? What's going on? And, how's everybody else doing? And he said something like, oh yeah, the buses are great. It's like, we did this and we went here and, the drummer was doing this and the bass player was doing that and we were eating this place and Eddie was in the back practicing the guitar. And then we were driving to this place and we were doing this and we were playing cards and we were having a great time. We were watching movies and Eddie was in the back practicing guitar. And it was like, he named like 6 or 7 different things and everything was like, and Eddie was practicing guitar. And so it's like, this is what it is, Right. It's like, you gotta, if you want to perform like that, you gotta be like that, right? You gotta put the time into practicing and, doing the basics and running your scales and playing your chords and, thinking of, it's from those basics that new concepts and new ideas come, right? Yes. It's from having them so, mastering those things that when you have a new inspiring thought, you can produce something.
It can just come out
elegantly. It just comes out of that, but it comes out of that such an intricate knowledge of the basics,
right?
That you don't even. It's just part of who you are at that point. It doesn't.
You know them to the point of not having to be, that
you don't think about them.
You don't
anymore.
think about them anymore.
But it doesn't mean that you stop working on them, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because they have to basically exude from your pores. It's got to be, in the case of relaxation, it's got to be the first thing that happens when you step into anything unknown, right? The first thing that I do is relax, because from relax can come tense. So even in a potentially dangerous situation, the very first thing I do is relax, because then, I can spring out of the way even quicker, right? If I'm already tense, how am I gonna move that quickly? I can't, because I'm like a piece of metal, right? I'm like a piece of wood, Wood and metal don't jump out of the way very easily, Stone doesn't jump out of the way very easily, It's like something relaxed, You can move, you can become tense, but only to the extent that you can be relaxed. So, there's all of that. So again, how do I bring that into this, how do I bring this idea of relaxation into my daily life, right? So it's like any phone call that I might get that, it's easier than it's easier than it used to be prepared for bad phone calls, right? Because now we have caller ID. We can just see, oh, geez. It's like before I even go, oh, geez. It's like I relax, and then I can, get on the phone and accept the information that's coming and not let it impact me in a shocking way, right? Shock is bad. Shock is, that's the jab that you get before the big wind up comes, right? Because you don't even know, you're seeing stars, you don't know where you are. So you want to avoid those shocking events, and relaxation will help you to avoid that. So it's the same idea.
Right.
So
maybe just take us through the
next
specific variation of the relaxation for today.
Right. So we're sitting in our position, and but in this case where we did just eyes closed, we have our timer set for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have the time to do, and make it short again. Don't make it overly long, and you're just sort of getting in a relaxed position. And this time, when you identify those areas of the body that present themselves to you, whether it's an itch in the elbow or a scratch in the eye or a cramp in the toe or whatever it is, as that comes to your attention, you're actually going to verbally state what it is. So let's say, there's an itch in my left little finger. And then I'm going to give it the physical verbal command to relax. And I just say, there's a itch in my left little finger, relax. And then you're observing the body for the next place. Oh, my back feels tense on the right side, relax. And you're giving it the command to relax. And as you do, your mind will remember that little exercise of tense and naming it tense and relax and giving it the sensation of relaxation. Tense, relax, tense, relax. So you're training your mind to understand what it is and associate that word, that verbal command with that action. Right? So
training the body.
Yeah, training the body to do this. All right. So my mind thinks it, my mouth says it, and my body takes the command and does it on something simple, so that when we get to this part, it will do the same. When it's trained long enough, you'll be able to say, and it's sort of funny because people will say, well, how do I relax an itch? It's like, tell it to relax. Don't worry about it. Let it go at that point. Just tell it to relax. It's the same idea. Basically, on another level, relaxation means to let it go, right? Just to put it off to the side. Don't put your attention on that spot anymore.
You cannot force it to go away.
You can't force it to go away, but over time you'll see that you will be able to, just when I said let it go, it does just go away. And you'll have more energy to focus on what you need to do without the body constantly trying to distract you away from what you're trying to do, because every distraction takes some energy, right? As soon as it becomes apparent to you, as soon as you acknowledge that as a thing, you're making an energetic connection to it, right? So it's draining some of your energy away. And so you have less energy to put on the thing that you're focusing on. So less power, right? You just become this sort of force that's sort of diffuse and moving in all directions. And whether I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about the finances, and I'm thinking about my knee that hurts, and I'm thinking about, I've got to do this later on in the future, and I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have said that email in the past, or who friended me, all of these things that you acknowledge, it's like a strand of energy goes to each one of them, and it's bleeding you. Right. It's bleeding you to death, basically. So, and then you're so fatigued that...
How could you produce something new?
Because you don't have the energy to do it.
Right.
You don't have the fuel to do it. You don't have the energetic exchange to make that happen. So it's a way of sort of cutting that off. And starting from the core, starting from your body, your physical body, your vessel that carries you through this place, why not contain that, consolidate it, and make that much more energetic, right? So now you feel like, oh, wow, you may even notice after doing this exercise even once that you walk through your day. If you do it in the morning, just be observant. Don't expect it, just be observant. And see if you don't walk through your day with more energy and you have more energy at the end of the day than you do normally. It's just a lot of it's being observant and then making sure that you connect that feedback loop, right? So it's like saying, this is because I did this practice.
I have more energy.
Because I did this practice, right? You always want to feed it back. Don't discount it. I mean, you'll know if that's not the case. If you keep doing it and it doesn't happen the next time, you'll be like, oh, it must have just been a fluke. Right. But I guarantee you, if you continue to do it, you're going to see that you're walking through life with more energy. And who doesn't want that? Whether you put it into this practice or some other practice or just your job or just your family life or whatever, doesn't matter. Do with it what you will. But this is a good way, it's a key to being able to, restructure sort of your energetic, your energetic withdrawals through the day, right? So it's like everything you attach to bleeds some of that off, and some of it's necessary, right? But a lot of it, most of it is just periphery distraction, right? So, and keeps me from focusing and bringing my focus to bear on what I want out of my life. So really, just to reiterate, that's the extent of the idea. That's the extent of the exercise, is just to relax the body and verbally name the things that come up that you feel in the physical body. Tell them to relax regardless of what they are, and then that's your acknowledgement, and then you move to the next one. And just do that for the 5 or 10 minutes or however long you're going to do the exercise. And this will help promote that bridge of, again, the mind controlling the body. You're giving it that verbal command. So, and the physical body's responding to that in one way or another. And if it, to the extent that it does not do that, that it becomes even more aggravating, here's what I would say about that. You should take that as a good sign.
The stronger the itch, the greater the discomfort.
Especially after you tell it to
relax. Oh, if it comes on stronger.
Yeah. Because that means you're starting to get to it. Your body's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable that this is starting to shift. Its position of power is starting to shift. When it becomes like, oh my God, I've got to, I am just not I cannot get in a comfortable position today. What is going on with this? It's like that lets you know that your body's going like, oh my God, we've got to, pull out all the stops. Things are shifting. It's like, headache, backache, no sleep,
tension,
exhausted, multiple thoughts. It's like, the sky is falling. It's completely disoriented. That means that you are really getting close. You're putting enough pressure on it for it to start to feel a difference, and that means you're getting closer. So expect that resistance, but when the resistance comes, and you just gently bring it back, and you just keep going,
right?
You just keep going,
right,
and you just keep going, and you acknowledge it, and you let it go, and you just keep going,
and you just simply give that command to relax.
Yeah. It's just sort of like you're just on it. You're focused now.
It's not an indicator of lack of ability.
No, in fact, it's just the opposite.
Yeah, right.
It's just the opposite.
Right.
It's just, again, again, we can put it in a game structure, right? We can put it in that sort of, okay, maybe it's not an adventure because it's not comfortable.
Right.
But there are plenty of parts of an adventure that aren't comfortable, right? You go through harder times, you go through different things. But it is sort of game-like in that, I can keep this up all day long. I don't care what you do to me.
Right. Right.
I can just, and I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get upset at you. I'm not going to give you more energy. I'm going to acknowledge you, and I'm going to let you go. And I'm going to move to the next place. And just slowly but surely, you're going to wear it down. And that's the idea. You know, you're in control, not the meat suit. Okay? This animal part is not the thing that should be controlling your mind.
The essence, the mind is in control.
Right. The mind is in control. So that's
Awesome.
that's what I would do for now. Do today.
Oh,
You know, as many times as you can. Do it all day.
I'm like excited. I'm like, you gotta be here filming. I want
I want to go relax.
to go relax.
I want to put it under my thumb. You're in my control.
Yeah.
Biatch.
True.
True.
Oh man.
All right.
Good luck, guys. Have fun with it, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you later.